I really want to thank you. You're, to many people, you're a hero.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for all that you do.
Really hard. Well, thank you for doing this, and
Yeah.
really just because I'm a one person, and I can't. I've also said I cannot change this one case at a time. I can't do it. So anything that we can do to educate people, to reach out, to create advocacy, change the narrative, open people's eyes. I mean, all of that is just part of the process.
But now there's something going on right now. Isn't there something that you were looking for some volunteers to help with, or am I mistaken?
The Family Forward Project is, like I said before, like 11,000 members, and I've done several live videos, and I said ultimately we have got to have in every state, we've got to have an organizer, we've got to have a membership person, we've got to have a lobbyist, and we need to have an advocate, somebody to kind of head up advocacy. I've kind of outlined a 16 module advocacy training, so people can learn to be parent advocates. We're going to have to take a step in and I've broken it down to those 4 roles because like in a lobbying perspective, somebody's got to get out and know who the state legislators are, know what the committees are, know what laws are putting down there, learn to be able to have that conversation with them. And that's, and I know that people are going to have to do this on a volunteer basis, at least initially.
At least initially, right.
Yeah, so, they've got to kind of focus on a certain area. Somebody to organize is somebody who can help set up meetings in certain places.
Right.
Organize by connecting me with like-minded people, like-minded attorneys or organizations in the area. Somebody for membership is to just get more people involved with us, and then, this advocate where we can really start this advocacy thing for parents. So I'm just kind of starting to collect that information. I probably have about 10 states that, we have pretty, they're still small groups, and we're still kind of organizing, but I've identified 1 or 2 people that, really want to take on this challenge. And
so the first thing I might think, if I'm hearing you, am I qualified? What kind of qualifications do I need? Do I have to have a law degree? Do I have to have a, tell me what you...
Yeah, so, you really don't have to have a degree. I mean, I've got one girl in Tennessee, bless her heart, she probably has her GED. I don't even know if she finished high school, but she's got a heart for it, and she's got a voice for it, and she's fearless. So it's really more about, if you don't have confidence, knowledge creates confidence. Right. So the more you learn, the more you can gain that confidence, and just being willing to learn the basics.
Right.
And as long as and that's why I've been willing to kind of put myself out there and say, I mean, I've got this little office over here around the corner. You walk by it, but I mean, if you walked in there, there's like notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of research that I've done, just on this issue, and who the players are and how I've reached out. So, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I have a reputation, at least in this state, of being that person who's like going to kick the bucket, kick the bucket. Yeah. So, it's just it's really a matter of saying, I know there needs to be change. Yeah. I'm willing to play a part. Yeah. I don't know exactly what that part's going to be, but you have to just keep filling yourself out and understand. I tell everybody all the time, you got to pray every day, and my prayer is prepare me, and just, God, just make us wiser and give us discernment and give us knowledge. And then the second part is join me and, find like-minded people who really who understand that the world needs to change and defend me. And, that's the Old Testament, defend me. I have one in Psalms I posted today. It's like, cut them off at the knees, confuse their thoughts. Don't let them speak, tie their tongues because it's evil. They're really spewing evil. Yeah. So, I actually had one DCS attorney said that I was, like threatening them because of
the person you're posting.
Because I was posting Old Testament, justification stuff, and but that's the prayer every day, and it's happening. I mean, I was downtown in the General Assembly, and I was sitting down, and this woman who's a total stranger to me, she goes, "Are you the attorney?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I met somebody new. So, and I've gathered there's so many people that are collecting and people know. So,
and I'd like to also say something like for the grandparents that are out there, because there are a lot of grandparents that they're retired or whatever, and grandparents are a very big, significant voting bloc.
Yes, they are.
And
very valuable to society.
Very valuable. Mm-hmm. And I also look too as well. I mean, I think that, grandparents should be mobilized in this, because it's one thing, maybe it's not affecting you directly right now. Maybe it's not even affecting your kids. But I'm involved in some of this stuff because I said, it will not happen to my grandkids.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
And, if they think that they're going to stop,
and they're not going to stop. It's going to get worse.
Right.
I know, and Jennifer Wynn in Kansas has become a really good friend of mine, and she says, when she realized what was happening, she called her dad one day. She was like, "What have you been doing?
Yeah.
How did you guys let this happen?"
Yeah. And that's what I've said. Tiff said, listen, I never want to look at my grandkids and they say to me, "Grandpa, why did you do something?"
Right. And we have to.
And we have to.
But I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 4 grandkids, and I'm like, if we don't show and start educating on this, it's going to become the norm.
Right.
It's going to become the norm that it's more likely that your child is going to be taken away from you and given to somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had a conversation with somebody this morning about birth certificates, and I said, the government issues you a birth certificate so that they can use that piece of paper to eliminate you from the life of your child and vice versa. That birth certificate allows a state to white you out, and change your child's name and take your genetics away from you.
Yeah.
On a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Again, I'm an adopted parent. I love my kids to death,
Right.
but my kids had no other choice.
Right.
And I always told them, if you want to go find out where your Russian heritage is, we'll do it. So I've always left that open. But we're recreating a universe that's it's not acceptable. It's
Right.
just not acceptable.
Right. And the one thing that I also think that an area that we haven't really tapped into as well as we could have would be in the churches. Mm-hmm. I know that there are churches that are all over the place, some very strong, some very weak, some conservative, some liberal, but there at least is a commonality that to some degree in many of the churches, not all of them, but there is the idea that the family is important. Mm-hmm. This is something that God has ordained, and yet what I find as well, I have seen people in the church make excuses. Oh, we don't educated in this, and
right.
And
or they find that it's too personal.
Yeah.
And also there's a money issue, right?
Yeah.
But I get very frustrated in churches, and these large churches that collect a lot of money, that they're spending $1 kajillion and raising $1 kajillion to teach Christianity in Zimbabwe. Now, and I understand we're supposed to preach the gospel to the world. I understand that. But you need to be spending at least half of your money right here at home.
Right.
And you need to be preaching the gospel at home, and you need to be supporting, and you need to get off your mind that it's too personal.
Yeah.
Because, the one thing I tell people, and, people come into me and they're like torn up, and, they're thinking about a divorce, and maybe they've thought about it before, but it's the first time they've had to really articulate it to somebody that's a professional. It's very hard, for them, and we spend some time talking about it. But you know what? That talking about it is so beneficial to them.
Yeah.
It helps them because they're in a different world, and I'm not a counselor and I don't take that role, but I just kind of talk about just what that looks like, and I also tell people, I'm like, look, I don't sell divorces, so I'm not going to sit here right now and make you sign a contract to get a divorce. If you need time to think about it, then that's what you need to do.
So the church that I go to back in Dallas, it's a Watermark church. They have a whole ministry called Reengage, and what they've done, like if they find out that somebody's getting through a divorce or thinking about it, the church itself, it's a large church, but they are broken into smaller groups. We've got to keep these people together. Mm-hmm. And so many churches have just accepted, they can't work it out. Well, wait a minute. Have you tried to stop this? Because that really is a mark of a Christian, to sometimes say, look, and I mean, I think every person has gone through the time, if not on multiple occasions, why did I marry him or her? this was a mistake. But you can work through those things.
Right.
And you can grow through them at the same time. And the thing is that, when you see divorce on TV in many instances, it's kind of like you don't see the aftermath, you don't see the consequences. You see that, maybe there was a hurricane coming or a tornado, but everybody's all happy and stuff like that. But there's devastation all over the place.
Right.
And particularly in the kids' lives.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I think that the churches need to take a much stronger look at what's going on, because there's also the idea that while we're walking with God, we're trying to please God, it won't happen to us. Some of the people that I know that are the most effective advocates are people that have been involved in ministry, and they've said, we never thought this would happen.
Right.
And yet it does happen. So the church needs to be a place of addressing this, a place of healing. But also, in Proverbs it talks about to speak up for those who can't speak on their own behalf.
Right.
So
that's one of my verses.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you gave me so much time.
Thank you.